Night has fallen. But for the poet, neither night nor day has meaning. The time has come now to unfold the legend of a people and of a fabulous city, daughter and mother of victory. Al-Qahirah, which means the victorious, Cairo.
From the very beginning, the people of Egypt have gathered on this hill to establish government and to seek safety.
Nowhere else in Cairo is there a better place than this slope of Mokattam, at the heart of this ancient citadel, to dream and recapture the past.
For here the horizon is immense, the Nile more blue, the stars shine brighter, and the desert is more scented.
Here, as in an open book, we can read the chapters from the long history of Egypt.
These are the ramparts of Saladin, bearing the patina of time. Through the ages, their towers proudly resisted attack.
And here, the Mosque of Al-Nasr Muhammad, dating back to the 14th century. In the warm Cairene night, the decorated tiles of its two minarets glow like immortal flowers.
Over there, within the walls, is the Mosque of Suleiman. It was built by an Ottoman governor of Egypt more than 400 years ago.
Behind this high, vigilant tower is the ancient well of Joseph, the well of the snail. Rooted to a depth of 276 feet, its cool waters are drawn from the rock by the patient steps of yoked oxen at the treadmill.
And here shines the white, the dazzling, the mighty mosque of Muhammad Ali. Its two minarets thrust to the sky like the crest of a helmet to a height of more than 300 feet.
Now, the Palace of the Jewel and its hanging gardens.
At the foot of the citadel, towards the setting sun, stands the Mosque of Ibn Tulun. For 11 centuries, its minaret has pierced the sky.
Nearby, Homarawe, son of Ibn Tulun, laid out magnificent gardens, embowered with jasmine and roses, peopled with exotic beasts and rare singing birds.
Within the gardens stood his golden palace, Khosrei Zahab. His portraits and those of many women, his favorites and musicians, figured on the walls, which glittered with gold and brilliant colors. A pool of quicksilver mirrored the sky in the courtyard.
Bordering the road, the imposing aqueduct was built 600 years ago to bring the Nile water to the citadel through its hanging culverts.
They have come and gone, the sultans, the beys, the emirs, the Mamluks, the ambassadors, all the distinguished travelers, faded away like smoke from the nargileh of the past.
Many civilizations left their mark here. In the south, that of the Memphis of old, capital of ancient Egypt. Far away, the fortress of Babylon, key to the delta and mother to this city. To the north, Ain Shams, cradle of Oni, famous university of the pharaohs. More than 1,700 years ago, this hill was the refuge of the early Christians, the disciples of St. Mark, persecuted by Diocletian, hid in the caverns of Mocatum to celebrate Mass.
Night falls over the Nile. An awesome night, when the howl of the jackal is answered only by the soldiers' bugles.
But then a new dawn breaks and lights the Arab lands. Muhammad, the prophet of God, preaches the new religion. It is the call to Islam, a call to faith, charity, and peace, which spreads out to far horizons.
"20 years after the Prophet had gone to Medina, Amr ibn al-As came to this land to spread the faith. They welcomed him as a liberator. He entered the city under arches of green boughs. Shields glittered, and in a forest of swords, thousands of horsemen rode behind him. His troops cheered. Amr ibn al-As laid the foundations of the ancient city of Al-Fustat and built the first, the oldest mosque in Cairo, the most honored. And soon, each day, from the high minarets, fell over the city the call of the muezzins.
From Medina to Damascus, Baghdad, Cairo, to the shores of the Atlantic, even to the walls of China, peoples shared in this communion of faith. And in the valley of the Nile, a new civilization flourished.
In 963, El-Muizz established his empire in Egypt. No sooner was his victory secured than he ordered Jauhar, his general-in-chief, to build, as others had done before him, a new capital.
As night fell, the architects were still poring over their plans.
Look at the star Al-Qahirah in the sky.
Al-Qahirah! Al-Qahirah! This city shall be called Al-Qahirah, which means the victorious, in memory of today's battle, preparing for that of tomorrow and for all time.
Cairo is but a vast fortress. A high, steep wall of brick, pierced with imposing gates, protects the caliph's palace and the military quarters.
General Jauhar built the Mosque of El-Hazar, adorned it with elegant porticos, marble pillars, ornate capitals, and minarets. Superb palaces and schools rose nearby, constructed by the Fatimites, descendants of Muhammad.
Cairo became the spiritual center of the Islam world.
Now suddenly, Towards the middle of the 12th century,
A menacing cloud threatens this part of the globe.
The Franks are setting out on a crusade to capture the Holy Land.
A Frankish king reigns in Jerusalem.
A Frankish prince commands at Antioch.
They want to expand their conquests.
Along the coast, across the desert, they gallop towards Cairo.
The Middle East is in danger.
The invader must be driven out.
Only Saladin can help us.
Saladin of Damascus?
One of Sultan Mahmud's generals at Damascus.
A tall man, noble and daring, whose eyes are everywhere.
He drives out the Frankish knights.
Wins back Jerusalem.
Leaps from victory to victory, recaptures the Holy Land.
Now, Saladin, you must consolidate your victory and strengthen the palace.
Tonight his shadow wanders on the ramparts he built, on these slopes of Mokattam, the hill which dominates the city and protects it.
He chose the site carefully, and having worked there alongside the laborers, he ordered that his emblem, the Eagle of Victory, should be carved at the top of the highest wall.
Again the Franks came back to the shores of Egypt, key to the Middle East. And from this citadel, soldiers set out to repel the aggressor.
By great misfortune, King El-Saleh Ayyub dies while the battle is at its height.
His queen, Shagaret-ed-Dur, holds back her tears.
I demand that the king's death be kept secret. Our people must not be afflicted by this tragedy, nor our troops discouraged. I have decided to go to the army at Mansoura.
The queen joins her soldiers in battle at the side of her son-in-law, Turansheh, and is victorious.
Turansheh is murdered, and the emirs offer the queen the throne of Egypt.
But 3 months later, the Khedives put forward Prince Aybak as Sultan on condition that he marries Shagaret-ed-Dur.
And the queen gives up the throne to her husband.
In 1258, a terrible scourge fell on Syria and Egypt. The Mongols, feared throughout the world, led by Hulagu, successor to Genghis Khan, descended on the land, pillaged, massacred, and burnt, leaving a trail of destruction behind them. Already Baghdad was in their hands. The Sultan was murdered. But Syrians and Egyptians united to hold back the savage horde. Al-Malik al-Muzaffar and Al-Zahir Bibars lead their troops from the citadel to their victory at Ain Galut. The news was heralded from the ramparts to the people of Cairo and greeted with joy, with drums and rejoicings. Their civilization was saved. Egypt held fast against attack from the east and the west. From that day, Egypt's path was clear.
But on the morning of August the 8th, 1303, at the hour of prayer, the Nile overflowed its banks. The earth shook, the heavens darkened, opened and fell, engulfing in the same cataclysm the murderer and his victim, the innocent and the guilty.
The Mamluks, intrepid and ambitious horsemen, raised to the highest offices, were now ruling over the citadel.
But what trick of fate made these powerful men turn against each other in envy and hate? Kinsmen plotting against kinsmen.
That is one of history's enigmas, when the mighty fall victim to their own secret weakness.
But palace intrigues and political murders remained alien to the Egyptian people. Learning and culture prospered. The empire flourished, and everywhere were built mosques, schools, gardens, hospitals, and public baths. 12,000 shops lined the souks of Cairo, selling brilliant clothes, lengths of precious silk, brocades, robes, finely wrought shields, parures of gold, silver, and gems.
The Mamluks lived in sumptuous luxury in the cool of magnificent palaces, which can still be admired.
Emissaries from every land seek the friendship of Egypt, seek to trade with Egypt.
In the citadel, one feast follows another. Feasts and receptions and more receptions.
Look, here come the ambassadors.
That was the Spanish one. Here's the French emissary.
What magnificent gifts they bring.
What outlandish clothes.
Yet another guest appears in the gardens, the ambassador of Venice, in a velvet mantle embroidered with gold. Behind him comes an impressive following. First, 50 officers and noblemen, then 100 servants laden with presents, crystal vessels, jewels, and silken clothes.
Sultan Al-Qahirah is seated on a couch inlaid with gold and mosaic. Above him hangs a canopy of figured silk. A Mamluk stands on either side of him with a fan.
Our proud Sultan welcomes him more as a brother than a prince.
He receives him in his arms.
Excellency, as a token of welcome, I beg you to accept this court mantle lined with sable, to prove the warmth of my affection, and this swift Arab horse saddled and ready. For I know that in love you're always impatient of delay. Honor me now by taking this place beside me.
The Sultan raises his hand and the feast begins.
Thus, for visitors worthy to be pleased, the East spread out like a fan the variety of its charms, the magic carpet of its fountains, and flowering jasmine.
After the fall of the Mamluks from power, the sultans of Constantinople directed the destiny of this country.
For it was in the name of the Sultan of Constantinople that his permanent representative came here to rule over the citadel, holding the office of governor under the title of Wali.
Having landed at Alexandria, the Wali goes up the Nile as far as Bulak. Finally, he arrives at the gates of the citadel.
Now I can see the first body of foot soldiers. They are coming into the open square, banners flying. Now a formation of cavalry in their thousands with their swirling robes, with their long lances. Now come the Beys, escorted by the Mamluk guards on their prancing horses. And now here come 4 riding horses, held by their grooms walking beside them. Finally, most impressive of all, riding majestically, the Wali, the richest man on earth. His crest of great diamonds reflects the sun's rays as he advances.
But institutions were so frail, and the Wali so often abused the privileges of his position, that the people revolted against his injustice. Their representative, Abu Tabak, then had the power to dismiss him. He came to the Wali respectfully. Humbly he touched the carpet. But his measured words had the strength of an irrevocable order.
Oh, Pasha, in the name of the people, I tell you that your rule must end.
I hold this office by order of the Sultan. He who has been appointed by the Ottoman Sultan cannot be deposed by the people.
The people have the right to depose even the Sultan if he be unjust and tyrannical.
I shall rule over the citadel until my Sultan recalls me.
Yield to reason, O Pasha. The people have surrounded the citadel. You may no longer hold your office. Henceforth you are nothing.
And the Wali obeyed and went.
On the 1st of July, 1798, at dawn, Bonaparte landed his troops at Alexandria without warning. The town put up a fierce resistance. He wanted to strike at England through the Middle East. He marched on Cairo. Within sight of the pyramids, he addressed his troops.
Men, consider that from the heights of these pyramids, 4,000 years are watching you.
Next day, the armies met. Ibrahim and Murad fled with their Mamluks, weakening the army. Bonaparte entered Cairo, but the people opposed the invader. Barricades were set up from Cairo to Bulak. The spirit of resistance never failed.
At the end of 3 years, the French withdrew. In their turn, the English went. The Turks and the Mamluks returned.
It was then that an ambitious officer commanding the Albanian Guard of Cairo came to the fore. Muhammad Ali, a man of medium height with a high forehead and a thick beard. He was a cunning man. First, he tried to gain the support of the people.
Khurshid Pasha is a tyrant. Whatever the cost, he must be overthrown.
But who would you put in his place?
An upright man deserving our respect, and who would swear to honor the rights of the people.
I swear it by the all-powerful God.
In the name of the people, I invest you with the title of Wali.
soon the enjoyment of power hardened the heart of Muhammad Ali. Ignoring his oath, he made himself sole master, ordering everything, controlling everything. His rule became more and more stern, often oppressive and unjust. The benefits of trade he took for himself. He appropriated land. The army and navy he created were there to enforce his power.
Muhammad Ali rests here, in this mosque of alabaster. Even after 40 years of rule, he could not forget the treacherous way in which he eliminated the unruly and too powerful Mamluks, who rivaled him in exploiting the people. His whole life was haunted by this memory.
It is the 1st of March, 1811. Flags are flying. A brilliant procession is forming on the citadel, horses pawing the ground and jingling their magnificent trappings. Soldiers and officers, lances, turbans, robes of heavy silk. Grooms busy themselves everywhere. In the courts, on the ramparts, soldiers are mounting guard.
Good day, sir.
Come, walk with me.
What a crowd. The parade will be magnificent.
What is being celebrated?
The Wali wanted to have us on parade. His son Tosun has been appointed General-in-Chief. He's leaving on a campaign today.
But I don't see the notables here, or the leaders of the church.
Or the ambassadors.
They'll be offended.
Soon nearly 500 guests jostle each other in the court to see the military parade which begins to make its way down the narrow defile of the street. Tosun has just gone through the gate of El-Hazab with his troops, and as the last of his men passes, the gate is suddenly shut. The Mamluks are trapped.
My God, what's happening?
It's an ambush!
We must fight our way out!
What? Unarmed?
We're done for. The dogs!
Try to escape over the ramparts!
From the palace, Muhammad Ali can hear the massacre and the cries of the dying. When the last Mamluk has been butchered and all is silent, Muhammad Ali stares, unseeing, before him.
Water. Give me some water.
Let it be done. Pasha, here is some water.
No, this is not water. It is blood. Blood!
On April the 25th, 1859, work began on the Suez Canal. The Egyptian flag hung on the site.
The first spadeful of sand is about to be lifted. The canal will open to the west, the way to the east, and will bring nations together.
As on the site of the pyramids, the brown arms of Egyptian workmen toiled at this wonder of the modern world. The work lasted for 10 years. The canal was opened on the 17th of November, 1869. Kings, princes, ambassadors, and delegations were there. Official ceremonies and receptions were held. For the occasion, Verdi composed an opera, Aida.
But progress has to be paid for, and there was much waste. The country was crippled under the weight of Khedive Ismail's deaths. Political crises followed one another. The throne was insecurely held. Ismail went into exile.
The people, the army, wanted reforms. The people wanted a national government, a parliament to carry out their will. They called for a stronger army and the dismissal of the unworthy. Khedive Tewfik turned a deaf ear.
I inherited the crown of this land from my fathers. I need not listen to your demands.
God made us free men. We are neither goods nor slaves.
Tewfik remained stubborn. He had recourse to intrigue. He disbanded part of the army. Foreign troops landed at Alexandria. Colonel Ahmed Arabi headed the movement for independence.
My friends, the freedom of the people is in your hands. Swear that you will follow me on the path to liberty.
I swear it!
I swear it! I swear it! I swear it! I swear it!
But Tewfik carried out his treacherous plans. British troops occupied the citadel.
Neither setbacks, prison, armed force, nor time can stop the advance of freedom.
The citadel that Saladin raised was not yet free from the pacing of foreign guards.
(1914). Europe is torn by the First World War. The Suez Canal is in danger. The Egyptians stand by the side of the Allies, who have promised them independence and freedom.
When peace returns, the Egyptian people demand their independence, but the victors, while dividing their new possessions, have forgotten their assurances. Violent demonstrations are held in Cairo in front of the Mosque El-Azhar. Young and old, men and women, Muslims and Copts fight side by side. The cross and the crescent are united. Long live Egypt.
(1939). 20 years later, war breaks out again. The Nile Valley is threatened. When the guns are once more silent, Egypt again hopes and struggles for a new world of justice and freedom.
In 1947 comes the momentous day.
It is the 4th of July. Since 8 o'clock that morning, a detachment of British troops has formed up on the barrack square. Facing them, standing to attention, a battalion of Egyptian infantry. The British commanding officer turns to the Egyptian commander-in-chief.
Sir, I hand over to you the key to the citadel.
The British flag is lowered, and then, slowly, for the first time in 64 years, the Egyptian colors go up against the blue sky. And as the British troops march away, the ancient slopes of Mokattam are once more Egyptian.
Mokattam, but not the whole of Egypt. The occupying forces have simply fallen back to the banks of the Suez Canal.
This maneuver does not satisfy the aspirations of the Egyptian people. Resistance fighters sacrificed their lives for their country's honor and independence.
On the 23rd of July, 1952, Egypt rises again in the ferment of a sweeping revolution. Without bloodshed, the country drives out a dynasty which has rested on foreign power.
The Egyptians themselves now guide the eternal destiny of Egypt.
Finally, on June the 18th, 1956, the air is filled with the sirens and hooters of departing ships. The last foreign battalions leave Egyptian soil. The Suez Canal is nationalized, and 100 days later, the three invading armies are halted. A page of history has been turned.
Over the valley of the Nile, a new and glorious dawn arises.
The Egypt of today links hands with that of the past. The great dam of Aswan is being built for the prosperity of generations to come. The deserts are peopled. Egypt offers justice and liberty to her citizens and a friendly hand to the world. The glories of history are joined to the hopes of tomorrow, a future of progress, generosity, dignity, and freedom.
Tonight, the souls of all those who have made this nation, given it freedom, prepared its future, haunt these walls.
The ramparts of Saladin.
The minarets of Al-Nasser Mohammed.
The Mosque of Alabaster.
The hanging gardens of the Palace of the Jewel.
Tonight, the ancient and glorious citadel watches over Al-Qahirah.
As radiant as wisdom, as shining as truth, as noble as resolution, as ardent as faith.